Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Getting Around the Borders, written by TanyaSapien. Hey, Ram, Raphael blurted out suddenly, midway through his regular routine of file transfers. His response came with one squinted eye open, Remedy's eyes glowing red to show her annoyance at her meditation being interrupted. What is it, Raph? He shivered slightly at the slight pulse of telepathic anger she accidentally released into the room, before quickly containing their emotions, and he responded with a bit of hesitation. Why are Mutarans so interested in humans? Both eyes opened, every marking on her flickering in a mixture of emotions, mostly confusion. Explain? Well, ever since the humans joined the Empire, Mutarans have had this almost stalker-like obsession with us. I thought it was just like a, hey, new DNA, let's catalog it. But it's been like 20 years, and you still treat us like we're the fascinating animal at the zoo. She sat up, marking shifting color and voice-changing cadence to indicate that it was ramification, her symbiont speaking. It's nothing demeaning. We wouldn't want you to feel like that. It's perfectly innocent. He gave a non-committal nod as he finalized the last uploads of survey data from their tiny outpost. That's the same deflection I got every time I ask. What's the reason? You're plugged into that hive mind, right? You'd know. She gave an exasperated sigh, ears flat, tentacles limp, markings going black. She was doing everything short of telepathic transfer to make sure the human understood the gesture of defeat. Fine, but only if you tell us what's so funny about our names. What? Rem and Rem. Okay, sure, but you first. It is your genetics. You weren't wrong there, but it's more than that. We've spent several hundred years, several generations genetically engineering perfection. Your kind stumbled into it. Another shift, another comment from ramification. We started as Arakan. You called them chimeras. It was an unending dedication of Mother Lezana and countless scientists that led us to break free of being parasites and be something so grand people consider themselves privileged to have us. Another shift back to Remedy. And then here come the super space monkeys, every bit as durable, every bit as resistant to a psionic attack, every bit as strong and bone-dense, yet your leaders insist touching your own genome is a horrible taboo that you'd never commit, and is 100% natural. You're an enigma of evolution and primal selection. He gave a solemn nod, leaning against the shelf with a, huh. So what's so funny about our names? Do you know what anime is? No. It's a type of entertainment media. Your names, your colors, and even your completing each other's sentences, and always referring to yourselves as we, is all a dead ringer for two sisters in a really popular anime back home. At our awakening ceremony, we asked to be named instead of choosing our own names. Our sire host was a human before she joined the collective. Do you think they knew? Possibly. The show was still kinda niche behind it. His sentence was cut short by a beeping alert. One of the weather stations was malfunctioning. Tapest H, a barren world still in the early stages of terraforming. He was about to remotely reboot it. Then he recognized a pattern in the cycling power states. Remedy jumped up to her feet in response to the surge of urgency and panic he was flooding the room with. Rare for humans' interactions, she was able to actually see his mental reference of the thing that he was suddenly looking at. With some quick shuffling through the drawers, they found it, a Morse code reading sheet. He backed the sensor logs up to the beginning and the malfunction and began transcribing. SOS, SOS. Kleiners, Wild Ride, Crashed, SOS, SOS, Trappist 1H, 12 survivors, SSW of Exmit Origin, SOS, SOS, save them first, oxygen almost out, SOS, SOS, Kajono KO, fingers numb, body beside me, we are at Exmit Origin, SOS, SOS, final Exmit, eyes fading, leave a nice plaque for me, SOS, SOS, SOS. S. Remedy had to steady herself against the flood of emotions pouring off Raphael. As he was still transcribing the message, she was already falling back on training and looking up the register. Kleiner's wild ride, civilian industrial multi-role, manifest says 63 people on board. Last check-in was system arrival 4 days ago. She was due for a gravity assist around H to slow down for landing at G. She's 2 days late for check-in. He gave a rapid, firm nod in response, hardly making a sound beyond the confirmatory grunt as he rapidly typed away at the terminal. After a few moments, a window on one of the screens opened and displayed the magnetometric and thermal anomaly on the weather station data. He grabbed the radio transmitter and began dialing to emergency band, but she grabbed his hand to stop him. He gave her a stern and confused look, but she quickly explained, "If they're on H, they're on a clock. We need something faster than border guard. What was that thing humans do in Terran space? The GDMS or whatever?" "GDMSS. That's radio protocol, but it only works because we have laws that back it up. Every ship is required to respond to a distress call with all haste." She flicked over to ramification. "There are Terran ships in the system, Raf." She changed the dialing address, and a smiling Yanesh face appeared. The camera angle from the handheld device. "Hey, R&R. Hey, Raf. What are you three up to? I know that look. What's going on?" "Hey, Asani, do you still have access to the deep field array at the Platte Bunny outpost?" He gave a very skeptical yes, and she continued. "We just got a distress call, and we can't wait on normal bureaucracy. Can you get us a system-wide broadcast?" "Not without a lot of heat from upper management. How urgent is it?" 5 known survivors of the ship crash. They're on Trap H, and the distress call sounds like they don't have a life support." "Strike me from the library. All right. Yeah, let's give me a couple moments." The screen jostled aggressively for a few moments as he tapped away on the device. "Okay, you're routed through. Next transmission out of Outpost 8 should be heard through the whole system." She smiled and quickly replied, "We owe you $1 million, Asani." "If I get fired for this, you definitely will." Raphael opened the channel and began his broadcast. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. Calling to all ships in system. This is not a test. Spatial accident, TRAPPIST-1H. Coordinates 12.174 north by 76.572 west. Kleiner's wild ride down on surface with all hands aboard. 12 survivors relieved at this time. 2 possible survivors at coordinates 12.198 north by 76.561 west. Any available ships, please respond." There was a tense silence, and Remedy was actively distracting her senses so that she wouldn't get sucked into the maelstrom of emotions that he was feeling. She'd been warned many times never to enter the mind of a human who's reading. Uterines can and will get pulled in and unable to leave. The tense and solemn silence was broken by a hail on a military band, open channel. They frantically hammered the receive button, and the human face appeared. "This is the Imperial Navy frigate Dashing Cardigan. Can you confirm the status of priority messenger Hijona Everdorn?" He swallowed hard, and Remedy's defenses buckled as she felt herself being drawn into his own emotional state from the sudden surge as he responded. "The distress call mentioned Hijona as one of the 2 at the second set of coordinates. She's exposed to the elements right now." The human was suddenly shoved out of frame, and he was staring at, of all people, the Lycaran princess, Harriet Fairweather. "Lady Hijona's out there freezing to death." He was slightly shocked at this development, but quickly confirmed nonetheless. "Yes, at coordinates 12.198 north by 76.561 west." She turned away from the camera, apparently no longer caring about the call, as she barked a series of orders to the bridge crew and then came back to the screen. The channel between the two of them was closed, but then an incoming signal came through on the emergency band they were originally going to use for alerting border guard. The princess speaking with urgency in her tone. "Priority alert to any military border guards or civilian legal enforcement vessels in orbit of TRAPPIST-1H. You are hereby under royal decree. Assist with Kleiner's wild ride accident response with all haste. Priority passenger Hijona Everdorn is present at second set of coordinates in previous broadcast. Verify life signs and relay the Dashing Cardigan at nearest opportunity that does not endanger rescue operations of remaining survivors." Remedy heard none of this. She had blacked out as she was being thrown through a series of mental hellscapes, Raphael's imagination reading through all possible nasty things the survivors could be going through. The only coherent thought she could muster was that the pain allergy was real. This is what it felt like when a human was having an allergic reaction to empathetic pain. But then, suddenly, the storm fell dead silent and still. There was a sudden flood of relief like she'd never felt before, and the grim hope that spoke to something deep and primal, something her people had lost in their centuries of gene splicing. She found herself in a stable dreamscape, a frigid tundra. The cold was biting but not painful, and Raphael was standing beside her, looking out over several Imperial Navy ships suspended in the sky over a wrecked ship. Environment domes deployed around it, survivors being escorted to landing craft, the last of which is the princess next to another Ikaran on a stretcher, holding her hand and talking to her. Raphael was just smiling at the sight before turning to face her with a sudden shock at the sight of two Volperons. "You're inside my daydream. I thought you were afraid to enter a human's mind." "We got pulled in. Your emotions were too strong." He just laughed a bit, then looked beside her, seeing a face he'd never seen before. "Well, it's an honor to see you here, Rem. And Ram, glad to finally see your face. You look good."
"It was chosen by our sire."
"How did you calm yourself so quickly without psionic conditioning?" "Simple. They've got help on the way now, and it's in the flavor of a full Navy response. A faster and more competent rescue doesn't exist. This is nice. We should talk this way more often."
Remedy squinted at him, ears flat. "You just let us into your realm like this. We thought humans valued their pride."
She recognized an emotion, and it immediately silenced her.
"Oh dear, Lizana, you love us."
He hesitated. Right. Kinda hard to keep that hidden anymore when you're inside, huh?" Ramification just laughed heartily and began the careful process of untangling their minds from each other as Remedy sheepishly responded,
"Okay, when we all wake up, we can address that. I'm not saying I reject that love, it just caught me off guard."
"Oh, I can wake you up if you want." Ramification looked over from the swirling thought forms she was untangling. "You can what?" "I'm awake right now. In fact, I stepped out to the radio shack for a cup of cocoa and calmed my nerves. You want me to bring you one when I come back?" Both of them stood in a stark shock, responding in unison. "Be silent, maintaining a stable realm while wide awake." Remedy began interrogating in earnest. "What mental conditioning do you have? Where do you hide your meditation hours? How long have you trained this ability?" He shrugged. I daydream a lot. Lots of humans do it. It's kind of like a hobby." The realization dawned on her. This was the true weight of a human's mind. The thing Adamance addressed to the collective was about. They were silence, but they were silence with the speaker's imagination. They were built like telepaths, just without the ability to transmit and link their realms to each other. She felt the connection suddenly falter, and then a moment later she was awake, Raphael shaking her shoulder a bit, holding up a cup of hot cocoa in front of her. As she sat back down, he asked, "So, can we address why your mental projection was wearing a maid dress?" Her markings flushed at a vivid indigo, almost turning ultraviolet in her embarrassment.
"Your realm must have assigned us an outfit based on your expectations."
He looked off to the side sheepishly. "Right, well, then Rem and Ram from the TV show, they were always wore maid dresses, so I always kind of pictured the mental image of you two would be, you know."
"Please avoid altering our avatars in the future. That being said, before the sudden chaos happened, we were discussing our sire. They were a human before they joined the collective. One of the first, actually. Do you think they chose our names on purpose?"
He shrugged. "Probably. Look, I don't make the memes. I just work here." After that, he seemed suddenly distant, and with some slight hesitation, she resorted to the connection to his dreamscape. They were back on the surface of Trapper Stage, and he was watching the rescue operation playing on loop. She came over to him and held his hand tightly, smiling warmly as she saw his physical hand close slightly in response to holding his hand inside the dreamscape.
"It's not just pain that loops in humans' minds, is it?"
"No, everything does. We're masters of getting stuck on things. We'll play something a dozen times before we finally had enough and move on." There was genuine fear on the princess's face. She knows Jonah personally. That's a friend down on the surface. When you're a royal of a stellar empire, you probably think nothing can touch you. You get used to having things your way. I can't imagine what she's feeling right now. She held his hand tighter, taking his physical hand in hers as well.
"Then don't. We'll just stay here in this moment as long as you need. Hope is a good feeling. We don't mind sharing it with a good friend."
He smirked. "Just friends?"
We'll have to consult the tenants to see what policy is on dating a human.
And if they say it's forbidden, Ramification responded abruptly,
in the words of your people, fuck 'em.
End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Caspar Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.